Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel with my little, actually it's planets that are kind of like ornaments, but I don't think it's Christmassy in my personal thought. I live in Rocket City, so wearing a sweatshirt or sweater with planets on it feels right for this city. But we have coffee, we have books, which we are going to talk about, and we have a little bit of rain outside, which was sprinkling earlier. I don't know if it is now, but it was very good, moody weather. And we are diving into a book called Grimm by Sara Bergmark Elfgren. And this looks like it is Stockholmsseries number 2. Now, I will go ahead and tell you guys right off the bat that I do believe this book was originally translated from Swedish into English. And the reason I believe I got this on NetGalley was because they were releasing the English edition. And I'm very glad they did, because as I'm looking here on Goodreads, one, I have to click my button that says translate, because it does look as though the summary on Goodreads is in the original Swedish language. Now, the book is not, and I did have the ebook, which was very, very good. I do not believe you need to read book number 1, which is, I looked it up, is Nora Latin, Norra Latin, Latin, 2 words. And I want to say that's the first book in this particular series. Now, this book is a little bit longer at 463 pages, so it did take just a little bit of time to get through, but it's well worth it. Very suspenseful, kind of this young adult mystery fantasy aspect. And I wish I'd had the audiobook. I bet it would have sounded so cool. Like, I don't know if there is an English dubbed, English translated audiobook for it, but I think it would have been really cool and like these moody vibes to listen to it. So let's dive into the summary. I may not be able to pronounce some of these words entirely correctly, so I do apologize. Sometimes when there's the little O over some of the vowels, I'm not certain the pronunciation, so I may do a kind of like visually phonetic. I do apologize. Maybe it's true that ghosts are born from secrets. Stockholm 2010's 18-year-old Casper has been through a difficult time, but now he's got his dream job at the Gruna Lund, which is an amusement park. There, he meets Iris, who teaches him how to scare the crap out of haunted house visitors. Stockholm 1980. 16-year-old Håkan and his best friend Grimm live for their death metal band, but their dreams come to an abrupt end after Grimm's unexplained death, and Håkan shuts down the band. Now, Håkan's son Casper is trying to find out what really happened. Together with Iris, he unravels the mystery and stories that surround the now cult band and his father's best friend. Who was Grimm, and why does he show up in Casper's dreams? Grimm is a gothic suspense novel that takes place in the same Stockholm as the acclaimed Nora Latin, published in 2017. It's a story about loneliness, community, friendship and family, and the life-changing powers of art. So, it does look as though this author has written quite a few other things, which is really cool, because if they've got this same sort of atmosphere, this same sort of moody, broody vibe, then I'm here for it. I really am. I like the fact that this particular author also utilizes like the backdrop, kind of this, again, atmosphere of like death metal music as kind of part of the vibe of the book. So Håkan and his best friend Grimm were in a band, and I kind of forget the name of it. It's like death cult, but it's a death metal mystery in my reading. But anyway, Casper is now grown up. He's about 18 years old, and he gets a job at this amusement park called Gruna Lund, and he hasn't really I don't know. It's hard to say. He's been kind of going through some depression. So, again, moody, broody vibes. And you kind of feel bad for this kid because even though he does seem to live with his dad, and some of the bandmates from the previous band also kind of come and visit every once in a while, Casper has been going through some stuff. And I don't want to call it just like traditional teenage stuff because I don't think that's fair. But Casper is going through his own things at this particular moment. Well, when he first gets the job at Grunelund, I swear I'm going to try to say it as close to its spelling as possible because I know I'm probably not pronouncing it right anyway. He originally gets the job as like Aladdin's magic carpet ride or something like that, which is like a big slide where I think you have like a little mat. And so you go woo, 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 and then down to the ground. And then he folds up the mat and he tosses it into a thing, which takes it back up to the top. And that's originally what he's supposed to do. Well, it's not what he wanted. He really wanted the haunted house. And that is just usually given to those who've already been there previously or like very few newbies, so to speak. So he hasn't earned his stripes yet to really be part of the cool kids club until he meets Iris. And he sees Iris one day kind of in this employee lunch area, and he's having some lunch. And she has the tattoo somewhere on one of her arms of his dad's old band. And she kind of looks at him and she's like, "What are you looking at?" And he's like, "Oh, I just noticed your tattoo." And she's like, "Oh, I bet you're wondering what this says." And he's like, "No, I know what it says." And my dad was Hawken. And she's like, What? You're Hawken's son?" And so from that point on, she's pretty kind of riveted. You can tell that she can't be a groupie or like a roadie because the band has been disbanded since it's probably as long as she's been alive. But she's definitely like a fan who would have like some sort of tattooing, like Rolling Stones or Metallica, like tattooed on them. Like an older band, even though I think those bands are still touring, would have that tattooed on themselves, and they're like substantially younger than like the parents crowd that would have like entered into that realm of like listening to them when they were first released. Man, I remember like some of those Metallica albums were great, but they're still pretty good. But this is a good read. I like that it doesn't minimize some of what Casper is going through. I think we don't often get books that talk about like young men who are going through things in more realistic ways of depression or just generally emotions, and being able to talk about that and talk through that. We do have some love going on. We have some friendship. We have the desire to fit in. So there is a little bit of coming of age in this particular book, as well as people are finding their place in society. But we also get the perspective of Hawken as well, when Hawken is younger, and the things he kind of went through with his best friend passing away. So we have that. And then, of course, we have like the parallel story of Casper as well. So we get both of those kind of perspectives. And I think I would have probably liked to see Iris just a little more fleshed out. I think she was a good character, but fairly flat, not super complex. Like, I feel like I think when I was, let's see, so Iris is a little bit older than him. So if he's 18, I think in my head, I pictured her like 20 or 21. Like she was just right old, like a little bit older than him, but not like the older woman sort of thing. So nothing too scandalous, if you want to say that. But writing from the perspective, or for this particular writer to write from the perspective of an 18-year-old and make them feel like real, and that it's like good to seek out help, and to be able to kind of reach out, and that it's okay, is just a really good theme, because I don't think we see that enough. And someone else, particularly this particular girl, Jennifer, she said the macho culture is big in Sweden, and so it's nice to have an author and publisher who dare to defy that and publish literature that breaks the norms. So I really wanted to capture that as well in this particular review because I think she said that really well. So thank you, Jennifer, for being on Goodreads, leaving your review, and letting me quote you on that because it just was a good way to convey that, in my personal opinion, because I think I don't want to say that mental health has is it's just more readily talked about now. Now, this book was originally it was originally released in 2021, which would have probably been pandemic era. But it's being released here in 2025 or actually in 2023 as the English translation. But just continuing the conversation of like mental health and anxiety is when you've been under that and understand how hard it is to break that cycle is it's really good to be able to kind of see that reflection in a book and know that if this character can get through that, then you can maybe get through your own as well. Now, I do not like to be the type of person who says, well, this person has suffered more than this person, because I don't think that comparing two people's suffering is any way the correct choice. I think your suffering is valid. I think this person's is valid. And whatever you've gone through, we don't compare the amount of water that you've drowned in just because one was deeper than the other. We don't it doesn't matter. But I like the fact that death metal is also a big part of this book, because it does seem as though the history in Sweden with regards to death metal is actually a pretty cool story in itself, and I thought that was really good. Now, this other individual as well, and I kind of agree with them. Her name is Anna. The perks of being Anna. She says that the supernatural part takes up relatively little space, and I agree with her. When the Goodreads threw in there like supernatural, I wasn't really certain. I thought there was going to be more supernatural happening, and we didn't get it. And I wasn't disappointed because the book was really very good, and I would say a little bit more drama rather than this fantasy fiction that I was kind of told I was getting. And when you tell me fantasy fiction, I do envision a little bit more magical or such happening. I do agree with the thought that this has a lot of horror elements, and I think the atmosphere in itself as well also kind of alludes to that dark atmosphere. Having this haunted house situation where you're scaring people, love it. I love a good haunted house. I like being scared, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. It really, really depends. If I've had an adult beverage or two, then my inhibitions are out the window and I'm probably going to screech my little head off. But if I'm going in there completely just drinking water or a soda, then I don't know. Sometimes I'm a little bit too rigid in my particular reactions. It's kind of funny. I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day, but I was just trying to see if there was anything else I wanted to mention, but I think that was really going to be it for this particular book. I think it's well worth a read. I know it's been out by at least the standards. This did not come out March of 2025. This was originally released in January of 21, but it was then again released for US in 2023. It was on NetGalley, and I saw it. I thought the cover looked cool, and I liked the vibe of it, which all this, you can see the way that it's written, grim on the cover, kind of reminds me of a death metal album cover where you get this name that you can't really read. And I have run across I follow this one particular Instagram called The Noise, and it'll really put up like tours for various bands, and every once in a while I'll run across one that I can't even read who the headliner is, because it is some sort of death metal, rock metal, dark metal band whose name I just cannot make out in the scratch work. But that's just my personal thoughts on all of that. I do have a concert that I just bought tickets for yesterday. I'm so excited. And it's in June, so I'm crossing fingers and everything else that it does not get canceled, because another concert I was supposed to see earlier in this month of March, got canceled like a month before it, and I was so bummed. So really looking forward to this next concert coming up. It is not death metal, but it is a type of metal, and so maybe I'll talk about it a little bit later as we get closer and we cross our fingers that it doesn't get canceled. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed, then I hope you will, and thank you for joining me on this journey. I will see you guys on the next page. Have a great one. Bye.